Good morning, it's Michael Taylor from Specific Property and Fisherman's Bend Realty. Apologies in advance, I'm a little under the weather this morning, but I really wanted to get this message out there given that we've just had the news that Scott Morrison has called the federal election for May 18, and I wanted to, get across some of the thoughts that I'm having initially about both political parties and alternative government through Bill Shorten and Chris Bowen versus what's happening with the current Liberal coalition government and their take on property investment. So let's start with the current government. They've basically not changed anything, so the status quo applies. So there's no changes to negative gearing and no changes to the capital gains concession. So basically it's business as usual. When we look at the other side of government, or the alternative government potentially through the Labor government, they've announced a couple of changes that are fairly significant. One being the change to negative gearing, which means that it only will apply to new property from January 1, 2020, and also the change of the capital gains concession to make capital gains concession be reduced from 50% to 25%, which has obviously a bearing on when you sell the asset, how much tax you have to pay. But firstly, let's delve into the thing that I think will predominantly affect the property industry, which is the negative gearing changes. And my take on that is that there are a couple of likely outcomes. One will be that if you can only obtain a negative gearing benefit with a new property, then potentially, obviously, that leads more people to purchase new properties for investment, because the negative gearing benefit helps with the holding costs of maintaining that property as an investment. If you can't apply those to an existing property, then potentially less people will buy an existing property as an investment. So for somebody like us who are specialists in new property, that's potentially a good thing, because we may generate and see more business out of that. The potentially unexpected consequence out of that, however, especially for the existing market, is if there is less people buying existing properties, then the competitive bidding process for those properties when you go to sell an existing property means that potentially there are less buyers for that property. Less buyers means less demand. Less demand means potentially lower or subdued pricing on existing properties. So, there are a number of outcomes that I see potentially from this. That yes, it may be a catalyst for more people entering the market into new property for investment, but also that existing property potentially will also be a little bit more subdued, given that there isn't that ferocity in the buying process going forward. That's really my take on where things are at the moment.